Hi, I'm Glenn Rodriguez, one of the co-chairs for our Moving Forward in Faith Capital campaign. We have a large repair project planned, and I'm here today to explain why we need the sound system repaired here in our worship space. Our sound system is like most typical sound systems that you would see. It consists of microphones, an amplifier that either makes the volume louder or provides other enhancements, and then the speakers. They're connected by either wires, which is typically what we use, or in the case of the celebrant, they're connected by radio waves because he uses a body mic. Let's take a look at some of these systems and some of the problems that we're having with them. We are up on the choir platform. Underneath this blanket is the main control panel that modulates the volume and the tone of our voices and music also. You'll note that it has about 12 or so inputs for microphones. The trouble is that between choir mics and those used during Mass, we have insufficient input locations for the number of microphones that we use. To accommodate the extra mic inputs, we have these extra mixer boards on top of the organ. You'll note that they can take inputs from 4 different microphones and then have one signal coming out that goes into this amplifier board. These 4 receivers are used by the celebrant, deacon, and seasonal Mass participants. There's only 3 there now because we removed one for use during the COVID. This conglomerate of wiring behind it then goes into the mixer on top of the organ and comes out as a single signal into this main control panel. While the system does offer multiple voice control options, the many connection points are a source of potential static and crackling that we hear from time to time. Also, due to the connections for live streaming, which are here to stay, we can no longer close the top of this panel. So in order to keep the dust out, we have to use this cloth. In addition to the control board, we need to look at another amplifier, which is behind where the presider sits. We are in the area behind where the presider sits, which is actually a storeroom. This also contains one of the original amplifiers that we had with our system. Portions of this system, where you see the lights, are still in use. Other portions have been abandoned, such as these, which were replaced by the control boxes that we just looked at. If you look around to the back of this unit, you can see the hodgepodge of wiring that we have back here and the difficulty one would have to try and find a misconnected wire, given that a lot of them are no longer in use. Next, we will look at the speaker system we are using. Back at the main floor within our sanctuary, you'll note that we have 4 black speakers high up on the ceiling. These are the main speakers for the spoken sound from both the microphones and the choir. We've addressed the location of these speakers in the past as we discussed living our mission. In a nutshell, it's a little bit of a problem for us because the speakers are behind where the person using the microphone is standing or saying Mass. The difficulty we have with that is when you put a microphone in front of a speaker, you create feedback. And the only way to control that is to lower the gain, which in essence lowers the volume. So it makes it kind of difficult because we have 2 systems fighting against each other in order to avoid the screeching and the howling that you get when you get too much feedback. We also have some monitor speakers that were supposed to be on the walls behind the choir area, pointing down to the choir, which gives them a better opportunity to hear themselves as they sing and to be able to adjust. The speakers were too heavy for the wall systems that we have here, and eventually one of them fell to the floor, so we took them both down. They are still up there and in use, but they're mispositioned because they sit on the floor in the choir area. Further compounding all of the overall sound volume that we have is the Tectum ceiling. This ceiling was supposed to have been wood. It had to be changed during the construction of the church in order to cut costs. The problem is that the Tectum, which we replaced it with, absorbs sound. Ideally, in a space such as this, you would want the ceiling to be able to reflect the sound and the floor to be able to absorb or reflect the sound itself. Father Quinlan had these panels installed over the Tectum on top of the choir area and the area where the presider sits in order to better reflect the sound out into the nave area where we normally sit. They were installed 18 years ago as a temporary measure, but unfortunately, they're still here. It's good because they reflect the sound. It's bad because they're starting to fall from the ceiling because they were only a temporary installation. You can see where we've had to shore several of them with wood supports in order to keep them from falling. The floor, on the other hand, is concrete, which is great because that reflects sound, but unfortunately, because it's exposed aggregate, all of these little stones reflect the sound very sporadically. And when you're trying to model a sound system in a space such as this, it makes it very difficult because the sound is going in every which direction instead of going down and just coming up in a single direction as it would from a smooth surface. We still haven't looked at the piano or the organ, so let's take a step over there. Both of these instruments are in great shape. The piano is a concert grand piano. It's large, but it has excellent tone quality for our space. But it is sensitive to temperature and humidity swings, which given our air conditioning and heating system here, does pose a problem for us. The organ was installed 16 years ago when we did an addition to the choir platform. It's in great shape as well. The speakers for the organ are the white boxes located above where the choir area is and also above where the presider sits. These speakers are quite large given the size of speakers for present-day organ systems. Let's go take a closer look at them. We are now in the area above where Father sits to get a better look at the organ speakers. These boxes that you see in front of me are the actual speakers. There are 6 of them altogether. The 2 on the end, as you look at them from the nave area, face out towards the nave, and those 2 center ones actually face up against the ceiling. Debris tends to collect in the speaker cones for the ones that face up over the ceiling, and they have occasionally become torn. Behind these last 2, you'll notice that we have an air conditioning vent. The speaker location tends to block the airflow from these vents, which does not help with our heating and air load. It's kind of like putting a couch over your floor vent at home. You will also note that this white sheet in front of me is one of the ceiling panels which has fallen from our Tectum ceiling. They are held in place with tracks on either side, but the tracks and the small amount of glue that was used are insufficient to keep them up over time. There's one additional area that we need to look at when we talk about the choir platform, and that's the issue of accessibility. Though not a sound issue per se, lack of accessibility is a factor affecting our choir platform and the ability of parishioners to participate as lectors, singers, and musicians. Accessibility is a matter of law, and the present-day configuration of the steps on our platform and the risers, and also the steps getting to our ambo, does not enable us to come in compliance with the necessary ramps. Adding to all these issues of mics, amps, speakers, and surface finishes are the external sound sources that we have entering into our worship space. Let's go over those briefly. We addressed the louvers in the heating and air conditioning video, noting that since they are open to the exterior, they let cold air in during the winter, hot air out during the summer, 24 hours a day. From a sound perspective, they also let traffic and jet noise in as they occur outside of our building. We've all heard the trucks and motorcycles on Great Neck Road during our masses. We also addressed the heating and air conditioning units behind the double doors. The sound from those is a problem for anyone who sits in the area adjacent to those units when they come on. Another heating and air issue are the vents that are over the choir area. The air movement from those vents can be picked up as a background noise on the sensitive microphones that we have up there. And lastly, if you look at the back of the church, one is certainly aware of the noise from the family room and the narthex area of the commons. The sound-absorbing paint that we added within the narthex does little to dampen these sounds, and it makes it difficult for folks who are at Mass to try and hear what the spoken word is from our speakers. So what's the solution to all this? The conceptual design calls for the entire system of microphones, amplifiers, and speakers to be replaced and right-sized for our current needs. A consolidated amplifier will eliminate the many connections that we have from our wires and also remove the obsolete components. Mic inputs will still be by wire, but by radio signal wherever we can. It's kind of like your TV at home when you can take your remote, change a channel, and everything happens inside the TV. From our perspective, we want to be able to speak into the microphone and have everything happen inside the amplifier, and then it can send the signal out to our speakers. One of the best things about the new control systems and amplifiers and mixers that we will have is rather than having to move about the choir platform to make adjustments to the individual sound, they'll all be able to be made from a tablet. All of the speakers will be replaced and resized and hidden as much as possible, including the back organ speakers. The organ and the piano stay. Of course, they'll be relocated to avoid the dust during the construction. We may be forced to resize the piano depending on the final configurations, but the preferred option is clearly to retain it if possible. The speakers will be chosen to minimize the feedback from the mics, as will their location. The conceptual design also calls for a hearing aid loop to be installed throughout the nave seating area. The hearing aid loop will automatically connect to our sound system for anyone who has a hearing aid in the nave area, and it'll connect by Bluetooth if necessary. We also plan on having some loaner headphones for individuals who need additional hearing assistance but do not have a hearing aid. The loop connection will tune out everything except signals which are coming over the sound system, which includes the choir, the organ, and also the microphones. Cameras are planned to facilitate our broadcast services, and the system will have the capability to project videos into the family room, nursery area, and also sound to the front of the church for use during Easter season and on Palm Sunday. The new location of the choir will facilitate sight lines and accessibility, as will the layout of the sanctuary. The conceptual design also coordinated sound improvements to help with lighting and heating and air conditioning solutions. For instance, the gypsum board ceiling that is proposed by the conceptual design will assist with lighting placement and brightness, but it will also enable better sound reflection. We can remove the panels over the choir area that are threatening to fall and cover up all of the sound-absorbing Tectum with a more sound-friendly surface. Smoothing out the surface of the floor in order to repair areas of concrete breakout where work for the columns and the return vents on the heating and air conditioning system will also enable a more controlled sound response and permit simultaneous placement of the hearing aid loop. Eliminating the wood vents at the ceiling apex not only eliminates a major source of exterior sound, but will be a tremendous help in reducing the outside heating and cooling loads. Replacing doors on the air conditioning closets that we have in the nave area with a soundproof wall will not only improve the sound within the nave, but will also facilitate servicing the units via a wall access from outside of the building. And finally, near our baptismal font, adding doors at the narthex to prevent sound transmission will also help to control temperature, since the worship area heat pumps will not have to compete with varying temperatures from the narthex and the family room. So that about wraps it up for the sound case in our Moving Forward in Faith capital campaign. We hope that this has provided you with a better understanding of the repair needs we have as part of this campaign. I invite you to view our companion videos on the lighting repair case and the heating and air conditioning repair case, which are posted to the church website along with this video. I'm Glenn Rodriguez, and for our pastor, Father Rene, and my co-chairman, Paul Battaglia, for the Moving Forward in Faith capital campaign, thank you for your attention in this matter. We look forward to working with you.